the February 12th meeting of the Rotary Club of Gastonia, where our theme this year is Light Up Rotary. Thank you. Please pass the cart buckets, especially in light of some recent losses in the club and in the state. To Alzheimer's, please think of those people and give generously. Turn off any noisemakers. Harry Petrie, will you lead us in the song and pledge?
Y'all see me?
No. Stand up, Harry. Stand up, Harry.
Unfortunately. In honor of Valentine's coming up, let's sing Let Me Call You Sweetheart. Now we're going to sing it again, and remember, for those of you who have never participated before, you must leave out all of the pronouns. All right. Let me call sweetheart in love with. Let me hear whisper that love. Love like glowing with eyes so blue. Let call sweetheart in love with.
I feel myself
Very, very good. Now, if you would, find yourself a sweetheart and give them a fine round.
Good to see you. Whoops. That's precious.
Yes.
Hey, Steve. What is the name of your company? Metal fabrication. Bill. Likewise. Goodness. Are y'all still doing breakfast on Saturday? I'm going to put that in.
Now, if you would, join me as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Harry Lockbell has our invocation.
Almighty God, at this moment, throughout the world, Rotarians everywhere are praying for you. We join in that chorus. We thank you that each Rotarian is guided by the Rotarian Creed of Service above self, and also by your holy command that we do nothing to someone else we would not want done to us. Please bless each of us individually and as a worldwide body in service to you. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Health and Happiness, Ellis Fisher.
How's your son doing? He's with you. I'm very well. Foundation. Okay. Very nice fellow.
You move that way just a little bit.
We're supposed to be the chip off the old block.
Sorry.
Okay, visiting Rotarians, Sergeant at Arms. Okay, no visiting Rotarians. Guests or Rotarians? Okay.
I have as my guest our Director of Communications, Randy Irwin. Randy was with the Gaston Gazette for 20 years, and we got him to come on board. we did our survey, and the survey said, what you have is a failure to communicate. We solved that problem. So welcome Randy to the Rotary.
Ben?
I have a real sweetheart here, Janice Booth, daredevil, author, photographer, and former CEO of the Girl Scouts of America.
Welcome. Other guests? Okay. From the health perspective, there's a lot of folks need our prayers. Jeff Pruitt, Jeff, your mom's still dealing with some health issues?
She is.
Okay. We'll just continue to lift her up. And Mo Owens is better. I think he's out of health care now, so a few more days and hope we can see, you know, when you're 101, you've beaten a lot of odds, and God bless him. I just, he's a lot of, what a blessing I was, Don, for you to get him in the club. But he's just such an incredible godly man. We just look forward to getting him back. John Fry's wife is still quite ill and hospitalized in Carolyn's Medical Center. Continue to pray for her. It's quite serious, and I know that they would cover your prayers. But good news, Harry Britt. When you get yourself pumped up, give him a call. And he just gives glory to God for everything that's happened to him that's good. His pulmonary situation is getting much better from his embolus. He's on Coumadin, his levels are good. He goes back to the orthopedist tomorrow, but he said, when the month of March comes, I'm going to walk through those doors back there, and I said, there's going to be some kind of ovation. I can't wait for you to be here. So the prayers and remembrances are still very much appreciated. Are there others that we need to mention, or anybody want to share or concern? We have lots of Rotarians in the news this week. Debbie Winley and our notable secretary are all over the paper, full color. I don't know, we might have to take a credit card for these. Did y'all see these? I've got 14 copies here. You can send to all your relatives, but would y'all like to make a contribution? Do not take it from the stack of people who give this year. I'm watching real closely. Okay. And there were, let's see, you may have overlooked some people who were in this picture with. How about that? The Women Optimizing Wellness. And there are those literally people all over this that your guilt should be overwhelming at this point in time. So, I don't see anybody that respond to that. Thank you. Okay. We almost had a spouse, remember this club, who was going to be having his own TV show in Corbett. Rob Sumner, New York Times. But it didn't happen. Can somebody help us locate that lady so we can get a chance for him to be center stage and bring us back? But anyway, I hope she's enjoying her travels wherever she might be. Scott, look at that. Really nice, huh? I mean, that's,
She had babies.
and so you're you. Let your conscience be your guide. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Tony, where are you? Is Tony not here? No. Tony's sick. One Tony can play for another Tony. Okay.
What did Tony do? He's always doing something.
Champion for children. He made the award, presented the award. You gonna pay for him? What a nice guy.
He do it for me.
Absolutely. There's a guy with a Rotary spirit. This goes to the scholarship fund. Did y'all remember that? Okay. All right. Is Eva in here today? Her granddaughter's graduated from Appalachia. Don, somebody graduated from Appalachian. We're pretty loose around here. We're hard up also. Give me some money so we can contribute to that. Okay. All right. Okay, Happy Dollars. Who's got Happy Dollars? Richard.
16 years and 1 week ago, I was diagnosed with a malignant tumor in my right kidney. And thanks to the help of Gadsden Memorial and some very wonderful doctors, one of them is a member of this, I don't know if he's here today, John Garrett here today. They saved my life, and I have been cancer-free each day since. Thank God. Thank you.
We just completed our 5-year reaccreditation. That's the equivalency of 4 root canals at the same time. And we survived and got a very glowing report. And today, one of our daughter-in-laws put a picture on the Stout Stream of her oven with a bun in it. Number 18 grandchild.
Ellis, it appears to me that you're about to let an opportunity pass to mention one of the great influences in the life of your undergraduate school, and that's the passing of Dean Smith.
I was not going to overlook that, but thank you for reminding me. Who else? Okay.
Just a real quick update on the Rotary Youth Exchange. You know, we had 2 exchange students go in the 2013-2014 school year. One went to the Czech Republic and the other went to Germany. They're both in college now, and they both rave about the experience and how that experience in the exchange program has helped better prepare them for college. So they've done fantastic. Tucker Bridges is probably going to go back to Germany this year. He won the award a year ago where he got the crown, so he's got to go return the crown this year. And Matthew Iezi is anticipating going back to the Czech Republic and doing an internship at a textile plant over there. So congratulations to those 2 gentlemen. With that in mind, we are sponsoring another young lady, Alyssa Ponroff. She's going to the Czech Republic. She'll leave in July, August timeframe. So I expect Alyssa will be here over the next several weeks to introduce herself to the club. Thanks.
Max, I'll read it, Max.
John Warren for his role in getting Highland School of Technology started, and the recognition that Highland School of Technology got in this grading of the schools.
Thank you, Max.
Just a happy dollar to say how much I appreciate this group and the friends that I have in this room, both professionally and personally, with some of the recent events that we've had happen, and with some personal things I've dealt with in my life, like losing my mother this past September after fighting Parkinson's disease. I had so many people in this group, in this room, reach out to me and send cards and make phone calls, just letters of encouragement. And it was an easy decision when it came time to come back. I'm glad to be back. So thank you for all your support.
You know, I didn't want to pass up Dean Smith passing, and truly one of the greatest ever coach any sport anywhere. And but just my little story there, 2 quick ones. You know, he had this incredible sense of humor, but it was pretty subtle at times. But he would do stuff like this, and you know, it read Ron Morris's article in the paper. They were playing. You know, he loved golf, and they were playing. And of course, Ron Morris was a sports writer. And so this is the way he would operate. They're getting ready to drive, and so Dean says, don't let that shed on the right side of the fairway bother you at all. So he goes up there and he just shanks the thing right into the shed. But the other, this is my personal story. I was a member of the same church in Chapel Hill that Dean was, you know, he's so active. And if you go onto the ACC website, there's an interview by Bob Seymour, who was his pastor, and my pastor when I was there. So Binkley Baptist. It talks about Dean, and he was the head of a committee, and one of the really good committee chairman. He said, "I tell you what, Dean, why don't you do this? If you will make there are no blacks on the team at that time," I said, in the SEC, he said, "if you will recruit a black athlete play on your basketball team, you're forgiven any other duties in the church. And sure that recruited Charlie Scott, so, which was a pretty good thing. But the story I have is that we were in this church and just had met him a couple of times. And I promise you, 10 years later, now, you remember what getting from the country club to I-85 used to be like. You know, remember going through Bradford Heights, going up there, turning right, trying to find Redbud. Well, I went up there to the handy pantry there at Redbud and New Hope, and I was going to get some gas. The window rolls down, and this is like 10 years after I left Chapel Hill. And sure enough, it's Dean Smith. He says, "Hey, Ellis, I'm lost. How's Meg doing?" I mean, that guy had an unbelievable, of course I didn't give him correct directions, I sent him but no, seriously, he really, there's stories of kindness, but the way he conducted himself, and just, as somebody said, well, I guess it was Bill Foster said, well, I thought James Naismith invented basketball. Well, Dean Smith reinvented it, so, as a result, he required that some of the opposition to recruit outstanding coaches too, and we were lucky enough to get one of them. That's all.
All right, just a couple of announcements on your table. You have got an updated committee list current as of this morning. I don't believe there have been any changes since then. Also, there should be 3 copies on each table. There are more at the Sergeant at Arms. There's more committee lists at the Sergeant at Arms table. But this is a list of important dates, kind of a snapshot of the year. So start about midway through for what's happening for the rest of the year. The anniversary of the founding of Rotary is coming up. That's February 23rd. And in celebration of that, some of the clubs in Charlotte are sponsoring another tree planting. They did this last year. Had a great volunteer turnout. So if you are interested in celebrating Rotary that way, see me or see the district website for details. Board meetings are on the back. Any new members that need to check off that requirement on your new member list, we will be meeting again on March the 10th, and please join us. And at this point, I'll call on Dick Ford to introduce our program.
IBM reported recently that the demand for data and analytics people, now called data scientists, calls for the employment of 4.5 million people in 2015. Only about 1/3 of those jobs are full. So if you have a son or a daughter that's looking for a career, pay close attention to our speaker today and have them think about the big data phenomenon that's going around the world. So what's the big deal about big data? Fortunately, our speaker today is well equipped to explain that to you. He is Dr. Sunil Irvelis, who's chairman of the marketing department at the University of Business at the Bell College of Business at UNC Charlotte. In addition to his academic responsibilities, Dr. Irvelis is in great demand as a global speaker at public and private client conferences as organizations try to, all over the world, including some of the biggest names in the world, try to seek to understand and take advantage of this capital of the big data opportunities. When I first contacted Dr. Irvelis last summer, he was getting ready to leave for a month-long speaking and consulting tour in Europe. This afternoon, he's leaving for Mexico, and his plane leaves at 3:15, so you can be sure he's going to stop promptly at 1:30. Dr. Irvelis, thanks for dropping down to Gastonia.
I'm very proud. I have a genetic problem, and that's I talk too much. So I'm going to try my very best and get started right away. The last few years have been quite volatile, and that's probably an understatement. I'm completely and unequivocally convinced when we look at the world of today, 2 or 3 years from today, the last 10 years or the last 5 years are going to look like child's play. I'm going to get started right away and put this big data thing in context. The 3 biggest forces, I believe, that are hitting our companies and will continue to do so in the next few years. The first one is the pace of change is at a level unheard of in the past. I remember it was close to the turn of the century, and I think the then President of the United States, Bill Clinton, was giving his last State of the Union address. And I was a professor at the University of California, Riverside, and I went home and turned on my TV. And as I turned on my TV, he said something that blew my mind. He said that the amount of knowledge that's created every 5 years is the same amount of knowledge that used to be created in the past every century. At the end of a century that no one in this room could possibly argue with me was the most amazing century in the history of mankind, the President of the United States shows up on TV, and essentially, to translate what he said a little bit, he said we're having a century every 5 years. And what that translates into, you know, if you're running your business or you're running your organization the way you were running it 5 years ago, you are literally running it in the last century. Down the street from where I used to live in California was the sage of the Claremont Business School. Without any question in my mind, there's nobody on the face of the planet who has written or thought more about business and management than Mr. Drucker. He started writing about management at the age of 20. 2 years before he died, sad to say, at the age of 96, he shows up on the cover of Forbes. And essentially, to translate what he said in that article a little bit, he said, everything he has ever written was wrong. Sad to say, I agree with him too. I am the only person in the world who can tell you in one line why organizations fail. And it's right up there. Companies fail because they overinvest in what is at the expense of what could be. And the reason for that is very simple. You have a big and powerful constituency supporting the what is. And the challenge is, how do we forget what we've learned and reinvent our company over and over and over again? The second major force, we are living in a world that is hyper competitive in nature. If you were to visit me at my home in Ballantyne, you will see that I have 5 dogs. I thought I knew a few things about dogs. Moreover, as a business professor, I thought I knew a few things about the products available in the marketplace. I didn't know till 2 years ago that there are 3 different brands in the United States battling each other for control of the bottled water for dogs market. It is a strange world. It is an insane world. It is an incredibly exciting world. For those who know what's going on, it's an incredibly scary world for those who don't. I cannot think of a better description of the business world today than that picture over there, you know? You don't change rapidly, you don't constantly reinvent yourself, somebody's going to come and eat you up. The third thing is, we've been told, you know, we live in the knowledge economy. I would argue people who say that don't really understand business. The knowledge economy was made famous in the 90s by Jack Welch, and without any question, he perhaps was the greatest CEO in the 90s. Knowledge, we are not living in the knowledge economy. Knowledge today is a commodity. I carry in the palm of my hands pretty much all knowledge available in the world. Knowledge today, what I mean by this is it's instantly disseminated, instantly copied, instantly made obsolete. Sony, that came up with a Walkman in 1985 or so, was able to make money on the Walkman for 15 years. Today, Apple comes out with something, and almost the next day, someone comes out with a better product that's cheaper. And so, if knowledge is a commodity, data is a commodity too. I started my consulting career around 1992, and whether you're talking about companies like Boeing or Hyundai Motor Company in Fountain Valley, California, we've always had more data than we know what to do with. In 1992, you went down to Boeing, and literally data and data and data, rooms full of data. And today, it's at a level unheard of in the past. But here's the problem. It's not the issue of getting the data. It's the issue of using it smartly. Most companies, and I don't mean to talk negatively about anybody, but even the top consulting companies in the big data business essentially focus on tactical, incremental uses of data. In other words, they'll come to you and say, we'll increase your sales or we'll increase your market share. We, at the Belk College of Business, have bet our future on the strategic use of data. And what I'm hoping to tell you are 3 different stories today, hopefully we'll finish all 3, on how you move from big data to data that's going to make you an incredible amount of wealth. What is big data? All of you might not know this, but you are creating big data as you speak here, as you sit here. Data, most of big data comes from customers. And I apologize for the next 5 slides. It gets a little bit technical, but I promise you we'll get through that. And let me define what big data is. Academically, we look at it in terms of these 3 things: volume, velocity, and variety. And what I mean by volume is, for those of you who are not technically oriented, this might not really mean very much to you. But you remember we had floppy disks that could carry a few bytes, and then you had kilobytes, and now my flash drive has gigabytes. We're not talking about that. We are talking about terabytes and petabytes and exabytes. And to translate that into simple language, 1 petabyte is something like 20 million filing cabinets. And Walmart creates, what does that work out to? 50 million filing cabinets per minute, okay? To put that in context. What we are talking about is massive volumes of data constantly created. But one thing you want to understand is big data doesn't mean large data sets. Here is where the second thing comes in. Essentially, it's relentless rapidity. Think of it as a pipeline of data just relentlessly flowing out constantly. And a good rule of thumb, if you want to distinguish between large data sets and big data, if you can put it on a spreadsheet, it ain't big data. In other words, you could have 32,000 rows on an Excel or whatever spreadsheet and 50,000 columns, and it still may not be big data. Okay? And the other thing is, if you're having a pipeline of this information coming out constantly, for most part, you got to use it in real time. It's very hard to store it. You can store the insights that come out of it. And the last one is the real differentiating factor. We have variety. In other words, in the old days, we could look at structured data. Structured essentially means numbers. And unstructured really means things that we couldn't analyze in the old days. Text, videos, audios, pictures. And a combination of that, which is mobile and GPS signals. Somebody who considers you a customer knows you are sitting here today, is what I'm trying to say. So let us start with some of the old-fashioned structured data. We were talking about Walmart a second ago, and so let me talk about old numeric data that's now used in so many exciting ways. You might not believe me on this, but Sears was once making so much money that they didn't know what to do with it. Sears was next to godliness, and they had all this money, and so they went and bought the tallest building in the world. Of course, they don't own that anymore. And a bunch of bumpkins born in the data age from Bentonville, Arkansas, was able from the very beginning to focus on data and put the fear of God into the MBAs from literally Harvard and Stanford who were running the Sears operation. And there's literally no difference in the front between a Walmart and a Kmart. If you really think about it, the price is the same, the products are the same. The story is in the back. How many of you have something here that you bought at Walmart? Can I grab it from you for a second? If you do. Anybody?
I do.
Okay.
Bought this jacket at Walmart.
Okay, cool. Does it have a... Let's imagine this is the jacket, just to save time. You have a barcode on the jacket. Have you ever gone through the checkout counter at Walmart and he scans the barcode and it doesn't scan, it clicks? Happened to you, correct? And now the cashier is kind of irritated. What does he do next? He kind of takes the jacket and rubs it on the scanner, and it still doesn't scan. It still clicks. And what is his next action? Now he's really irritated, and doesn't he punch the number? What did that, may I ask you your name, ma'am?
Me?
Yes?
Grace.
Grace, what did that cost Walmart?
This jacket here?
No, those, the time that we spent doing those 3 activities that I just spoke about. 11 seconds, 14 seconds. Who pays for those 14 seconds? The customer. Walmart has figured out that you don't become the largest retailer in the world by making the customer pay for your inefficiencies. Who pays for that? The manufacturer. Walmart is the only company that I know of that when they scan a price, the scanner also registers how many times it clicks before it scanned the price. And approximately 1 year ago is where my numbers come from. Every month they send a bill to PepsiCo for poorly packaged Lay's potato chips. And the bill is approximately $110,000 as of a year ago. And they send another bill to Procter & Gamble for poorly packaged Tide detergent. And a year ago, that bill was $180,000. And do you think Procter & Gamble says, I'm not going to pay that bill? You say, yes, sir, there's the check. That is old-fashioned structured data, okay? Stuff that's produced on scanners and so forth. And that's only the beginning. One of the things I recommend you never do is copy someone else. I think Seth Godin says it best. The leader is a leader because he's done something that's remarkable. And once the remarkable thing is taken, it's no longer remarkable. The thing is, how do you use this old structured data in a different way? You can't be remarkable by following someone else who's remarkable. Now let's get to the more interesting part, the unstructured. What's unstructured data? Pictures, videos, pretty much everything that isn't numeric. And I was telling Richard that we were the first school, business school in the world to teach the first social media analytics class in 2011. In 2013, we taught the first in the world. Not even Harvard does it. Taught the first mobile analytics class. To the best of my knowledge, looking on the internet, nobody else teaches a mobile analytics class. So let's look at mobile first, because I think that's where most of the action is going to be in the future. Most of you remember this. How many have actually owned one of these? It was $3,995. And then I was a professor at the University of California at that time, and Motorola then came out with the StarTAC. How many of you owned a StarTAC? And this blew my mind. I bought 2 of them. Not because I wouldn't use the second, I just liked holding it, you know? And then Motorola missed the shift from analog to digital. No exaggeration here, by literally 7 months. And in that 7, and we went to my MBA class, everybody had a StarTAC. And in that 7-month sliver, a company perched on the edge of the Arctic Circle, a company called Nokia, that hitherto used to make, did you know, rubber boots and snow tires, was able to steal the lead from Motorola, and Motorola never recovered. Motorola doesn't exist anymore, in case you didn't know. And so I went to Finland, and you know, as usual, I was unprepared for my speech. I didn't know there were a couple of Nokia people in that room, and I was luckily saying nice things about Nokia. And at the break, these 2 or 3 guys came up to me, and they said, "Professor, you're absolutely right. We are growing like a rocket." And I'm pretty sure they didn't like my answer. I said, "Yeah, but rockets follow a parabolic path, you know?" I don't really care whether you're growing like a rocket or not. All I care about is what's your next act. And sure enough, Nokia missed the shift from dumb phones. All of you owned a Nokia at some stage, right? By approximately 11 months. And of course, Apple now has, and I would argue despite yesterday being the first company to hit $700 billion, most of that market, in market cap, most of that is incremental growth as opposed to changing the game. So I would say the same thing to Apple, you know, about the parabolic path. Tomorrow I'm going to talk to a group called the YPO in Monterrey, Mexico. And the thing that pisses me off, especially if you have a title like CEO, you know, you think you can play with the phone while I'm talking. And you know, it's really hard to keep people's attention these days. And they're, you know, conducting business, and you go down to the unemployment line or the welfare line. Think about this for a minute. People would have their homes repossessed, they haven't paid the rent, their car has been taken away, their kids are going hungry, but they will pay their phone bill. Because that is their link to the world. And pretty much anything you do with your phone, I can guarantee you someone's analyzing it in real time. You might think, oh, Google or Facebook or even AT&T, you know, they're such nice people, you know, you get free news and free email. You are actually Google's supplier. You are not Google's customer. And the same thing, increasingly so for AT&T and so on. Let me tell you where it's going. If you were to come, maybe I'll ask the printer. Who would like to be really creeped out over here? I understand the long arm of the law is over there, but you know, let me creep out Rim, because I'm her guest. She's not going to slap me or something as long as I'm out. Rim, that's the question I'm putting to you. Do you know where you're going to be? And that's some random date. November 11th. At 3 p.m. this year.
I might if I checked my phone.
If you checked your phone,
I might know where I was going to
you have something in your calendar?
It's possible.
Okay, let me go a little bit further. Let me take, do you know your mood? On January 31st, 2016 at 8 p.m.
A big data might know.
If you were to come to my office with a very high degree of probability, I could answer both those questions. And I have a beta version of, Microsoft was actually the leader in this, though Google now has taken lead on this. How am I so sure? The good thing about marketers is we don't really care about you as Ring, we care about you as customer XX, 1, 2, whatever. See, most things in life that sound amazing, if you break it down into its constituent parts, it's really quite simple. Think of your life. You might think you wake up every day and do a different thing and lead your life as a free spirit. The truth is, your life is highly predictable. And at all stages of your life, even if you turn off your cell phone, the only way you don't send a message is completely dead. Somebody is tracking where you are and has that information. In other words, you may wake up in the morning, go to work, come back every evening. If you had kids, you pick them up from school, you might take them to soccer practice or ballet or whatever else. If you have kids like me, on the weekend your entertainment is quite predictable, Chuck E. Cheese's or the movie theater. And if you track this data over a period of time, this is what my screen would look like. And I could select a level of confidence. For most things, it would be over 85, 87%. Where are you going to be on Saturday or that date that I told you, right? And I could try to make it higher and higher. Sorry, I don't have the pointer. But you see that little red dot over there? I can say with, let's say, a 92% confidence at 3 p.m. on that day, you're going to be at so-and-so place. And if that were an ice cream parlor, could I predict what your mood and so forth is? Now, this is something called, software is called Far Out. And so increasingly, you're going to be targeting customers based on location. What that means is, I don't know what the local mall here is, but let's say you're going to the you're going to be at the Concord Mills Mall. Nike already knows you bought a pair of sneakers 18 months ago, and it kind of wore out. Would that be the right time to send you a $25 coupon? You see what location means, and consequently, with Mood 2, anyone who talks about segmentation today and doesn't have a strategy for segments of one, it's what we call mass customization. Just doesn't get market segmentation, period. You don't segment people in an age group 32 to 44, some race and some income anymore. You're segmenting it on the individual. And increasingly, if you have so much data about each of you, companies are going to change from those based on products. What I mean is today you have a company that makes cars, and you have another company that does retailing, another company that sells clothes. You're going to increasingly see brands, and Amazon is just a forerunner of that know you so well, then why don't we brand you? And that is, do you have a choice? To do every company represented in this room is in a race with a competitor, yet unborn, who's trying to deconstruct your orthodoxies before you do. Somewhere out there is a boat with your company's name on it. You can't dodge the bullet. You have to out-innovate the innovator. Someone once said those who live by the sword will be shot by those who don't. But the most fascinating part of big data, and I think we'll have time to complete this, we bet our future on two things: big data and innovation. If you aren't the best innovator in your business, innovation or death is my short answer. And I'm an academic. I don't use words like magic, lightly. But let me see if I can convince you of magic. Let me first tell you, a little bit about the background of innovation, then we'll take it to big data and how big data is. Most of us don't think for a minute what a huge advantage we have simply because we have American in front of our name. How many of you have gone home and stopped for a second to wonder, you have 3 or 4 nice cars in the driveway, 6 or 7 television sets in every room, spread out in your house, perhaps a swimming pool at the back and a tennis court. How did we ever get there? Or, and let me ask you a provocative question, are Americans members of a superior race of people? Or is there something that may be a better answer to that question? The sheer size of the American economy is mind-boggling. And if you go back 10 years before the downturn, it was even more mind-boggling. When you have China coming in at number 4. And wait a minute! Arnold, and presumably his maid, was running an economy almost as big as the economy of China. And so, what is it that causes us to get rich? I would argue it's the presence of 4 markets that sadly don't exist within our companies. We are great as a country, but when you look at the individual companies, the first is the market for talent. I left the Ohio State University and became a professor at the University of California, Riverside at the age of 25, and I walked into my first MBA class at 7 p.m., and at the age of 25, I almost got a heart attack and died on the first day. Because there, sitting in that room of 50 people, no exaggeration, were at least 20 different countries, if not more. 1 or 2 from China, 1 or 2 from Taiwan, 1 or 2 from England, 1 or 2 from Germany, 1 or 2 from us. And I hated it because they didn't laugh at any of my jokes. And it took me 2 years to figure out global humor. For the sake of India, for the sake of China, for the sake of Mexico, for the sake of Taiwan, I hope these people go back to their own countries. For the sake of the United States, I stay up late at night, every night, praying that they stay. Because the magic of the United States is we not only arguably have the top 10% of imagination, brain power, born in the United States, but we also arguably have the top 10%. Pretty much every country. And you can never beat the country that attracts the most imagination. But none of this imagination is of any use if you don't have a market for ideas. And when I talk about ideas, you're talking about ideas coming from lopsided angles. If something you get out of this course, I would hope you take the word best practices and wipe it off your vocabulary. Nothing makes me madder than a consultant who comes and says, I know all about the hotel business, or I know all about the airline. We'll come in and solve all your problems. What they're essentially saying is, we'll come in and infect you with the same old ideas that we infected the rest of our clients. Isn't that correct? And the third market that we have in the United States, market for judgment. Today, if you have a cool idea, the only thing you can do is go to your immediate boss, and if your boss thinks the idea sucks, that's the end of the idea. Yes or no? I don't recommend you do this because I think it's illegal in the United States. But there is a British gambling firm called William Hill that bets on anything. And I knew who was going to win the Super Bowl. Marshawn Lynch or not. And essentially, to put it in perspective, they knew Obama was going to be president when he was still battling Hillary in the primaries. More amazing, I don't understand royalty, but they had predicted the name of the prince was going to be George the minute they found out that the princess was pregnant. And what they do is essentially they start out with 50-50 odds and change the odds as people come and judge the situation. Are you understanding what I'm saying? In other words, the crowd is always better at coming to a judgment than the boss. And finally, you have a market for capital. Making a long story short, if you like free stuff like free email and free news, this guy started Hotmail. He was thrown out of 13 venture capitalists who ridiculed his idea of giving away email for free. The 14th guy gave him $500,000. But think about this, and which he turned into $2 billion within 18 months. Think about this. This doesn't exist in our companies. In your company, you go to your boss and ask for a few dollars, and the answer is more likely no than yes. Most of our companies are the last bastion of Soviet-style central planning. You have the same 8 dudes at the top talking to the same 8 dudes for the last 8 years. Richard was very, very smooth about this, but when he spoke on the phone, he said, "Professor, we need a real presentation. In other words, not any of this ivory tower falutin stuff. We need real business." And so I threw out my Netflix example. The other thing is there's no such thing as a mature business. There are only mature managers who suffer from a rampant lack of imagination. And you can't get a stupider business than this one I'm going to talk about next. How many of you, all of you, I suspect, have some time in your life played Lego? Lego is a family-owned Danish business, even today, started in 1932. And I'm going to rush through this a little bit and tell you about the social media analytics. I don't know about you, but by the time I was 8 or 9 years old, your aunt gives you Legos for Christmas, and your dad, and everybody, your grandmother. And I had a stack of Legos about this high. It was of no interest to me at all, because there were limited things you could do with Legos. And the world changed. By about 2004, you had video games, all sorts of things that kids could do. Lego was on the point of death, constantly losing money. And in 2005, they started bankruptcy proceedings. And if it was a publicly traded company, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't exist today. But this was a family business. They're kind of emotionally tied into it. And so they said, well, let's wait a minute. And they went out and bought a Japanese company called Kusu, which translates into imagination in Japan. And this is a big data, small. What I'm trying to get here is the social media aspect of it, where imagination and emotion, in big data we call it sentiment analysis. I have a professor on my faculty who can read your email and tell you what your sentiment is. Did you see what I'm trying to say? Let's look at the 4 markets. We talked about the market for ideas. Let's say your kid goes out and sees a Spider-Man movie, and he comes up and creates a Spider-Man. Members who have stimulated community imagination through social media, I'll explain to you what that is in just a second, can do it. That's the new media, new social media analytics. Or they can do it the old-fashioned way. In other words, they can submit their Spider-Man thing. And these are what their ideas have looked like, Minecraft or Back to the Future. And more recently, Lego didn't come out with the Lego movie concept. Somebody out there did. And what I mean by social media is essentially, someone is reading your Facebook, Twitter, and Kusu is just a specialized version of Facebook. Someone is analyzing your emails and blogs to see, what people are saying about Lego. Your search data, your clickstream data, your geodata, are there different sentiments in different parts of the world? And obviously, if you have a little kid, they're constantly putting photos and videos and so forth. Then you have market for judgment. Anybody else, by the way, there's this rabid group of people out there on the web who are rabid fans of Legos and actually, are the best salespeople and customers at the same time. You have sentiment analysis or text analysis. You can analyze what they said to determine their sentiment. You have dynamic, in other words, you can find out how the emotions change over time. And obviously you don't want to just do it in Danish or English. And you can do it in every single language. And products, so the first part is big data, overwhelming sentiment. And the second part is old, little data, all right? And so then you have the market for talent. Other people come in and say, well, you came up with this, but I'd like to perfect it, and it could be random customers or it could be developers within the company. And finally, to make a long story short, you have multiple capital markets within the company. If the manager in the United States doesn't like it, the guy in Japan could give you capital. And the winner gets 1% of the revenues. Thousands of ideas per day is what Lego gets. Millions of sentiment and opinions. Hundreds of team members working on a single product. And multiple capital markets. I don't use the word magic lightly. Remember the old slide? 2005. 2006 they bought it, and 2008 they turned positive, and in October of last year, this tiny family business surpassed Mattel to become the largest toy company in the world. That is magic. Let me conclude with two or three minutes.
Why don't you miss your plane?
Yes. Ralph Waldo Emerson says things in better words than I ever could. There are two parties in every organization. The party of the past, the party of the future. Let me ask you a tough question. Which party do you belong to? I had one opportunity in my life to meet with legendary Boeing chairman Lou Platt. He was legendary chairman of Hewlett-Packard before that. His last words before he left Hewlett-Packard: whatever made you successful in the past won't in the future. He could have muttered those stupid terms that these other platitudes that these other silly CEOs say, but he was very honest. Essentially what he said is, whoever took you to the last dance, sure ain't going to take you to the next one. Sure ain't going to take you to the next one. But the second to last words in these fast-paced times go to the great race car driver Mario Andretti, who said if things seem under control, you just start going fast enough. What he's essentially saying is if you wake up in the morning and you feel you're on top of things, go back to bed till it passes, you know? And the way I'd like to end the presentation, the future always arrives a little before you're ready to go up the past. Thank you very much for having us. I'll be happy to take questions or hit the road as you wish.
Madam President?
We are running out of time, but if it is the will of the club, I think a few questions are in order, if you don't mind.
Intellectual properties, how does that figure in the world today?
My opinion for at least the last 10 years has been, patents aren't really worth even the paper or the ink it's printed on. Legitimately, and I don't know if you have any lawyers here, there's a legitimate way to get around any patent. And in any case, this is what companies usually call knowledge management system, which is a corporate speak for how do you commoditize and corporatize knowledge. And knowledge is a commodity. Knowledge comes and goes. It's copied, it's replicated, and you move on to the next thing. So I'm not saying don't get a patent. What I'm saying is, what's your next act? And increasingly, the next act is not what new products you come up with. Most of the action in the future is going to be on what new business models you come up with. It's not product life cycles that matter as much as strategy life cycles. When you say business models, it's the difference between Nescafe coffee and Starbucks. Did you see what I'm saying? And the problem with Starbucks or Dell, they can't come up with the next business model. And that's where big data comes in. Dell hasn't managed to come up with the next great business model, and neither has Starbucks. To answer your question? Yes, sir.
Do most of the students that didn't laugh at your joke from all of the other countries, do they stay here or do they go back to?
It's a very good question. Have you ever wondered why do these people even come to the United States? You might argue, they come for opportunity or to come to make money, I would argue it's the American Research University. Nobody in this room could possibly argue with me that we don't have the best research university system in the world. I've taught in other systems. There's nobody in second place. And the reason they come to the United States is to study in our research university systems, and essentially they don't go back. It's the goose that lays the golden egg. Now, increasingly, Goldman Sachs came up with the term BRIC. Goldman is great at investments, terrible at telling the future. Literally, one of the things we do is tell the future. Of the four BRIC countries, only 2 are going to be left standing. And increasingly, people are going to go back. By the way, if you're curious about the answer, China is peaking in 2015. People are not going to realize it because of their one-child policy. Everyone says, oh, let's go to China, markets here. No, China is going to get old before it gets rich. It's an aging population. And it's Brazil and India, and to a larger extent, the rest of Latin America is where the growth is going to be. Does that answer your question? Okay. Right, Russia's. Yeah.
How does this apply to small business?
See, this is one of the big mistakes people make, is that, oh, it must cost a lot. No, it's very easy for a small business to subcontract data. It's the strategy that's really key. There's plenty of data there. You can buy it from Google, you can buy it from me, you can buy it from consulting companies like PwC who will help you get that. The question is, what do you do with it? And that's why we focused on strategy. It's not that you have supercomputers in order to use big data. It's exactly the opposite. Big data opens, it closes the barriers really to competing with the big guys. And Lego is a perfect example. They beat Mattel.
Gotta go.
Okay, thanks.
I want to thank you for a fascinating program. There is no doubt big data is going to transform the way that business operates. I really wish you were just a little more enthusiastic about your subject. Thanks to all our guests and visitors. Come back and join us at any time. We will be adjourned with the 4-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?